This is Drosera admirabilis from Ceres, South Africa. It's been very heat tolerant for me, especially in the 90-degree Fahrenheit temperatures in my room during the summer months, but it's also been able to form this very unique skirt of dead growth that you can see on this plant here. Just 2.5 years ago, this plant was at the surface of the pot, and now it's 2.5 inches tall. So, just some basic calculations, you can see that it's grown an inch a year, which is a very fast rate, especially having not fed this plant for the past year. The leaves usually remain a greenish color or a light green, even if you don't feed them for that long of a period of time. Normally, other sundews like Drosera specialata or Drosera oblanceolata will usually color up with this nice red coloration if you don't feed them for a long time. But this species does tend to remain green. If younger, the plants will tend to color up, at least on the older leaves, sort of a reddish or purplish coloration, but that's mainly because they grow a bit slower than the adult plants. And the roots on this species are very long and thick, but they're a bit susceptible to water-related stress conditions. If there's a higher water level in the tray, the younger plants especially have a tendency for all the leaves to sort of curl up, or I guess all the tentacles on the leaves to curl up, and then eventually new growth will develop and unfurl, and it'll sort of make the condition go away. But I usually, the reason they're looking okay right now is that I've gone for about 2 weeks now with watering very minimally, and they've done quite well. As you can see now, they look a lot better than they did just a few weeks ago. The flowers are self-fertile and they're pink. You can see a flower that's opened here today, and they're very beautiful flowers, quite large for most sundews. There's quite a few flowers that open up on a single scape, but they last quite a long time. Most sundews like Drosera intermedia, the flowers are very short-lived, but I guess with South African species, they do tend to stay open quite a bit longer. And this has been open for about 4 hours already, and it's still not showing any signs of folding up for the day. So, but they're self-fertile, and I've been able to produce tons of seeds without even having to worry about pollination or anything and aiding in any way. So they're very reliable in that way to produce seed. They usually will only flower during the winter or the spring when the temperatures are cooler unless you feed them. As I mentioned, I haven't fed this plant for a year, so this plant flowered on its own this fall, and it sent it up the scape in the fall, and now it's continuing to flower. And it really is interesting how that happens just during the cooler months. During the summer, it seems to be a bit more stressed in the heat, but it still grows at a very nice pace, and it is able to maintain a good level of growth. When full size or mature, they're able to extract nutrients quite well, and that would explain why it's able to flower and without shrinking in their growth at all. The younger plants will remain that size unless fed. They're about the size of a quarter, and they're over a year old, but since I haven't fed them, they're remaining about that sort of small size, and they've grown less than an inch in a year. So mature plants are able to grow much faster and extract more nutrients from the soil than are smaller plants, unless you feed them and get them up to this size. So I hope that helps you understand a bit more about the species. You can find this plant pretty readily at carnivorous plant retailers and online, and you can also find this species in a lot of growers' collections if you want to trade to get it. The seeds, as I mentioned, are pretty common as well if you want to give this plant a shot growing it from seed. So I hope that helps, and that was Drosera admirabilis from Ceres, South Africa.